This is another exciting opening trap against Banco Gambit, where I crushed my opponent rated 2200 plus on chess.com. And after that I will also show you one of my wonderful game where I crushed National Master with my Sicilian Defense trap. So let's get started with the Banco Gambit. You already know when we play d4, knight f6, we have c4, and now black goes for this c5, and this is not the Banco Gambit, you can just advance the pawn, but the Banco Gambit starts when we play this b5 on the board, challenging the pawn. So okay, we take, I already have played this line many times, and after this we have the pawn push. This is the standard idea. You can play another move as well, you can push this pawn, but after this pawn push is very popular. So okay, we just develop the knight, we don't want to take, otherwise the bishop would be really developed here along this diagonal, and this would be somewhat crazy for us. So that is why after this we invite him to capture with this pawn, and now we set up a wonderful trap with this pawn push. I have played this game once and my opponent fell for this trap because I already fell for this trap once playing with an opponent. So okay, we invite black to just go for this pawn push. So what happens? So I was playing with the black here, and once my opponent pushed this and I played the knight move. Not my opponent played the knight move, and I also played with white this same trap. So this is a little bit confusing. So okay, knight capture is not possible, which I played, and one of my strong rated opponent played this knight capture, but the game is lost obviously, and you have to find the wonderful move with this queen to e2, and we just pressurize the knight. So this knight cannot move. If the knight moves, let's say here, and this is a wonderful checkmate, and this is the smoother mate, you already know. So this is really remarkable, and when I realized that the knight is lost, so I played something else, but I lost the game eventually. And after that I applied the same trick against my opponent, and when I played this queen here, he was really out of the moves, and he can even not play this pawn push, let's say go for this, because still we just push the pawn first, we attack this knight again. If the knight goes back, we just deliver this wonderful checkmate, because we just cover all the square and the pawn is pinned with the queen. So, and if the knight is not moving, we just capture this knight straight away in the next move, and that's it. So you can win this game from here. But another trap which starts surprisingly from here, after this pawn push, when you play the knight move, if your opponent already knows about this move, let's say he cannot capture this, so he will play d6, which is the actual recommendation. And one of my 2200 rated player, means opponent, played this d6. Okay, I did not know that what to do here, but still we have seen so many games with Banco Gambit where you can play a4, and a4 is really a good stuff. We just want to cement this knight here, and this would be really good, and we want to ask, do you want to really capture here? So my opponent captured obviously, so I was really skeptical about this capturing with the knight, because it would just pin the knight and maybe some problem might occur. So rook capture I played, and he captured with the rook, pawn capture, and I was still not afraid of the queen check, which just pressurize my knight, because this is still defended and I have the bishop check, so that's the good stuff. But now we are still offering the e4 pawn in the center, and my opponent goes for it, but this turns out to be another blunder, and this pawn could not be captured. And you have to spot the brilliant move with the queen a4. We just pressurize the knight, and we are threatening checkmate in one. Let's say you just go back with the knight, try to save, but this would be a checkmate, as the knight and queen both delivers check and the king cannot go anywhere, so this would be a checkmate. That is why my opponent realized that he has made a blunder, and he played the bishop move. Still this is not a checkmate obviously, he will just capture, and I will lose the queen as well, so maybe. So we just capture the free knight obviously, and after this still the queen check is not working, as we have the bishop check the queen, and the queen would be under attack, and still we are having enough protection to the knight. But what happens if we just eliminate the knight and then go for the check? But the problem is bishop capture, and bishop capture will come as a check, so I have time to play the bishop move, or we have time to play the pawn push which defends the bishop, and that's it. The game is completely lost. So after few of the moves, my opponent lost the game after here, and that was really a good game. Now it's time to show you the game which I played against National Master, nicknamed Chessmast123. So let's see what happens in the game. My opponent started the game with this knight f3 ready opening, you already know, and we go for Sicilian Defense type structure because we want to control the center. After this is the theoretical stuff where we just control a lot of squares in the center and we don't allow d for pawn push. We have to play the knight move, g6 is coming, bishop g7, and we will control this d4 square too much. So that is really a wonderful idea. So okay, he just castled, and after this castle, let's say we have the knight jump, continuing with the same plan, so some developing moves. Okay, my idea was first play g6 and then play bishop g7 and then the knight to e7 and then castle. This was my plan, but by instinct I just played the knight move because we want to develop both the knights, so that was really not my plan. I just played the knight move here. Okay, so g6, and now bishop g7 is coming and we just castle here. What is the difference in this line and the last? Because knight would be on e7, so we don't have to worry about the bishop pinning this knight, but in this case it is not there, you would see. So he pushed the pawn, and now I have to worry about this bishop pinning the knight. This is quite catastrophic, so we have to push the pawn, don't allow it, and knight is coming on e4. I thought okay, we could capture this, but I just played the bishop move, and then I realized okay, I could just capture this pawn capture and I could mess up his pawn structure, but it also gives him the chance to attack my d pawn, which is quite weak. So okay, I did not go for this, so he captured here, queen capture, and the rook is coming. His idea is very simple, that he want to pressurize this with the b4 after this a3 pawn push. So okay, we don't allow it, we have to play the pawn push. Okay, let's go for this. This is the standard stuff nowadays. We want to control a lot of space in the king side and the queen side as well, and the a5 a4 is also coming. So okay, we have a3, we have castle, bishop d2. Still he want to play with the pawn push, but we don't allow it, and we push the pawn a4. Okay, this is one of the favorite move nowadays, because you already know this pawn can never be pushed, because this would create a weakness on this a3 square after we just take unpasand. So okay, that is a really powerful move from every player. So okay, he pushed the pawn, still we capture this, and this leaves the isolated a pawn for white. But still the problem is that I cannot lift my bishop because this pawn would be falling, but still we can go for this pawn, but knight would also be falling. So we would have to see what do we have to do with the bishop and how to deal with this position. So let's see. I played the king move, and my plan was very simple. I have to play queen e7, then f5 and attack in the king side, because this is the setup where we want to develop the bishop here, go behind the bishop, and maybe we can trade the bishop in this fashion, which is very strong. So okay, we have the bishop move, continuing with the plan, queen e7, and now knight goes back. We just play f5 and we have to attack in the king side. So okay, I am controlling the center, so I have to take the initiative to attack. If I was not controlling the center, I would have played some prophylactic move, and that was good. But still, because center is mine, so I have to try and go for the attack. So knight is coming. So his plan is very simple. Knight should jump to e3 to d5 square, and this would put a lot of pressure on my position. but still we don't care, we just play the knight move. And I thought, okay, bishop isn't doing all that much, we need to open up this diagonal. So are you really interested in capturing this knight? Because this knight is very powerful, we are going to deliver check, and if you play this, we can even eliminate. Oh, okay, queen is also hanging, so he cannot really do this, so he need to decide what to do. And now he captured this. This is the only move we capture with the pawn. Now the pawn push. This is the strongest move recommended, because being the pawn on this d4 square, it is not possible to do anything, because this pawn would always be weak and we can put pressure on this e2 pawn, and that's the good stuff here. That is why he pushed the pawn. Okay, we just take, we don't mind, because this opens up this black diagonal. We can place here, here, everywhere we can just place the bishop. So okay, knight capture. He is continuing with the same plan. Knight is jumping to d5, which would be a really strong piece. So I cannot really play a bishop to e6, but because the pawn would be falling. So still I thought, okay, there is no need to rush, and we just push the pawn. But this allows him to capture a free pawn with this knight to d5 and capture the free pawn, which attacks my queen as well. So but I already saw this is coming, but I have to go for the exchange sacrifice, you already know. So knight to d5 attacking the queen, queen to g5, it is the strongest move recommended. We have to do something, and knight capture is a good move. Okay, he can capture with the knight or g takes. Both moves are good, you can just capture with anything. So pawn capture, but we just capture with this wonderful rook. See this, and I just went for the exchange sacrifice because he's national master, and obviously I have to create some imbalance in the position so I don't get into the end game, and my too powerful bishop would be doing great job. So I thought, okay, let's give a try. So knight capture, queen capture, and my plan is very simple. I need to play bishop to e5, which will attack the h2 pawn, and there might be possibility of some wonderful checkmate. So okay, I thought, what is the saving move for white here? I thought he could just push d4, which is the second move, third move recommended by the engine. But the best move in this position is very remarkable, and you have to find the queen to b6, which doesn't really make a sense. But this is a very wonderful engine line. We have to see if we try to go for the bishop move, which looks like we are threatening checkmate, and there is no good way to deal with this position, or you can just play the king move. This is the good stuff. But we have first the queen check, and once we deliver some of the check like this, we go up, we go, and once it goes down, we have another check with the queen, and once it goes to h7 square, now we play the rook move, and this is the wonderful engine line. And you see, we allow this to capture here, and king is really safe. Bishop cannot move because there would be some checkmating ideas with the rook, and this pawn would always be pressurized, and you cannot really say that we can go here threatening some check, because let's say if we just want to trick our opponent with this move, attack the queen and go for checkmate, because white is having this queen check, and which lifts the queen very well, and this would be very easy stuff. So, or this rook check is also there. Every move is just good here, so we would just lose the game. That is why this queen to b6 was really a wonderful move, but my opponent did not see this, and I thought, okay, this is the human like move, because this I already thought, okay, the pawn push is coming. After this we have to give one pawn, and after giving one pawn, he can just offer the exchange of queen, and this would be good. Or even better, he is having this very wonderful bishop takes b7, but we can just play rook move maybe, but this would not be doing that much, because we can just lift the queen, attacking the queen in the same fashion. Yeah, queen, yeah, we just lift the queen, and that's it. We get out of the danger, and everything goes good for white. This is +2 almost. So this should have been better for white if he is going for this line. But after this wonderful sacrifice, he did not find this queen to, not the pawn push, neither this queen to b6, which looks really an engine line. Who would spot this? Queen to a2, which looks really an awkward move, but what can we do? And now we have the bishop move. I am going for the checkmate. So he doesn't have good stuff. Okay, he played the pawn push. We just captured this, and there was a very simple win. We just deliver a bishop check and the bishop is lost. So okay, once we deliver a check with the bishop, you have to move somewhere. e3 you can move, but the rook would be coming, or the bishop check is also coming. d7, yeah, rook bishop d7 and the rook would be coming in the game, and this is really not good for white, because you have to run away with the king. The bishop would still be hanging and we are having a very excellent position. This is -11, that means completely lost. But I did not see the bishop check, but I thought okay, queen check is still winning, because now I have to force him backward, because he cannot play this move, as I have another bishop check and this would be catastrophic. So he goes back, but now bishop check, and we invite him to play this rook move blocking this, and he cannot reject this, because if he tries to move, this is a check and we pick up the free bishop and this would be very easy checkmate. So that is why rook block. But now the bishop move, we are going for checkmate. He moved the king, and there is a very simple stuff here. We just play the rook to e8, block this, and then we have to go for some checkmate. Like let's say he captured this, we can capture this, and then there would be this checkmate, and any checkmate is just there. But then I realized okay, I can go for this pawn, because this would be pinned. Rook capture is obviously a good idea. Bishop is pinned, so I just want to capture this free pawn. So my opponent obviously saw this and he played the rook check first, king move, and now the queen is coming to protect this pawn, but the game is simply lost. And we have to find very simple: bishop takes, rook takes, not capturing this rook, because rook is really of no use. And now you would see this rook check, and we reach the position from the thumbnail where this bishop and the queen is just very devastating, and you have to play something. Even you play any move and you have to just resign. So my opponent just resigned the game at this point of time, and this is not my first victory against national master, but still this is the most wonderful one, where I sacrificed my rook against the knight to attack the king like this. But obviously my opponent made some blunders, otherwise this would have been really a tough game. Now let's come to the another game where I will show you in a losing position how I bounced back with my very wonderful Sicilian defense. So okay, not Sicilian, this is like c5, but English variation you can say. He also plays c4, c5, and we have to take this capture, and now this knight to c6. So we just offer the trade of the knights, but okay, he doesn't accept. Pawn push, knight is under attack, and we play d6. He was threatening this knight check, which will force me to capture with the bishop, and the queen would be jumping in the game. And now the bishop move, and it is very important for me to play this a6, and everyone who is playing Sicilian defense in this variation, you have to find this a6. And I played the bishop to e7, which is really not good. And I already knew this line that I have to play a6, but then I just forgot and I thought okay, bishop move is also working. But let's see what happens. After we'll play the pawn push, first the bishop takes, queen cannot take, because the knight check would just fork the rook and the king, so that's not happening. We have to take with the pawn. But now we have to just play bishop g7 and just castle, because white is not having the black square the bishop, and this would be good stuff. Even the pawn structure is not so well, and knight has to move at this point of time, because knight would be under attack. We can play bishop g7 and we can just castle, and this would be a good game having the bishop pair. But the difference here is that I played the not pushing the pawn, I played this bishop to e7, which is really inaccurate. And after this bishop takes, I cannot take with the bishop, because it's obvious knight will come as a check, and this is lost because of this queen, and king will stuck in the center. That is why I cannot do this. I played with pawn capture, but now the surprising stuff, when the bishop was already here and the pawn push was already on a6, so he had to move the knight. But in this line, knight is jumping in the center. That is the good stuff. So he jumped with the knight, and I have to move the king because there was a threat of this fork, so I cannot allow this. And now we see some developing moves. Knight is going back. We just push the pawn. We don't allow the queen to jump in the game, and I am not doing that much good because this is 1.5 or plus 2 at some point of time. But I played some of the developing moves. But now you would see why I played this very wonderful bishop move. This is not that much wonderful, but still we want to trick our opponent, and the threat is to capture the free pawn, knight capture, and there would be fork. Let's say white plays something, then we just take here, knight takes, and there would be this fork, and we win the game on the spot. So that was the threat. So he already saw this and he played the bishop back. Okay, not that bad move. So we just push the pawn. We want to play this h3, so the pawn cannot capture, and we can capture the pawn, or we can create some sort of weakness here. He played the pawn push. Rook is coming in the game. Still the threat is alive with this bishop capture, and rook sacrifice is working. So he played the rook move, and still this is not so bad unless he plays something really bad. So I just captured with the bishop, and now he has to capture with the bishop, not with the rook, because he is hoping for rook capture, and bishop in the end would be protecting this square. But what is the difference in the other line? That after he capture with the rook, I have this knight check, and which will pick up the queen and fork the king, obviously. So but in both the lines this is just the same, but you would see why this is good for white. So bishop capture, rook sacrifice, rook capture, and now the knight check. We have to allow this. So king move, and once we capture this, and now you would see this rook would be joining the attack very soon. Okay, after this we play something like we have to move the king. He plays with the rook, and now his two rooks is really powerful, and I would be having really bad position because I have to block with this knight. Both the knights would be jumping in the center. I don't have a light square bishop, so this would be really good for white. But in both the cases white is losing the queen, but it is very difficult to understand which move is really good. So he played with rook capture, that is slight inaccurate, and we have the knight check, and we capture the queen. And after this variation you would see he is not having the two rooks which was lined up here and which was really active. And okay, his knight is still jumping in the center, but not that strong. So pawn push, we see some prophylactic moves. Rook is jumping, queen is coming back, and now we go for this pawn, and this is an easy win for me because after few of the moves we play the queen move. We pressurize the pawn, pressurize the bishop, so he has to save it. And once the bishop goes back, we deliver some checks. Bishop is coming in the game. We have the bishop check, king move, and the rook. We just go for this capture. There would be some possibilities of the checkmate, so bishop check first, and the knight is moving. Still there is a checkmate in just two moves, and we have just to find this queen check, and that's it. We need to block with the rook. This is the only stuff, and this would be a checkmate. So that's the game, but still I did not find this move, and I thought, okay, I have some discoveries to make, so I can just play the bishop check and capture this, another check, and this check, and this was a really good checkmate. So how was the video? As we have already completed 24,000 followers on Facebook, so I want you to subscribe my YouTube channel as well, so you can see these kind of very wonderful content on chess. So I will see you soon in my next video.